Alright, well, when you have probably the maximum amount of observers in a game, it's expected that it probably will take longer to load, and I should have waited to play that introduction. Oh yeah. Alright, well, if you guys are in chat, if you're hanging out right now, we obviously can't see the vote screen at the moment, but if you want to type !vote Hyun or !vote GoOdy, you can let us know who you want to win, who you guys are cheering for. But let's get those hotkeys on, let's hide the top bar, and let's get the production tab up because we are ready to go. We are ready to rock and roll. Here we are in another game for the Go for StarCraft Monday Premium Cup. This is Rifkin, you're watching Basetradetv, and this is only a best of one. Spawning here in the upper left corner of the map, playing for Quantic Gaming. Sporting the very appropriate red, it is, of course, Hyun. And his opponent, in the lower right, with a 54 tattooed onto the command center. It's the purple Terran, the Panzer General, it is GoOdy. Now, it's pretty safe to say, not only is this Akilon wastes, it's also gonna be GoOdy, so we're probably gonna see mech come out of him. Hyun is a player who has played against all sorts, all types. Nothing's gonna catch him off guard. This isn't gonna be silly. Mech is not something unfamiliar to him. But my big question is, does he take this to the Roach Hydra Viper late game, or does he try and bust GoOdy early? Hyun's got this really amazing 3-base Roach Baneling bust he does that is almost nigh unstoppable. However, this is one of the few situations where that might not be a viable option because GoOdy will have tanks available. He'll have mech on the field. Mech will be in play. So, I don't know. I wish I could predict the build out of Hyun. I really wish I could tell you guys what exactly is going to happen in this game, but sadly, I've not seen enough players try and trounce mech early on to see it, to be able to predict that. The late game, though, is pretty easy. I mean, people love it. It used to be for a while. If you remember back in Wings of Liberty, Broodlords were like the ultimate GG. You get Infestors, Windfestors, as they were aptly nicknamed once upon a time, or you get Broodlords and Corruptors. Either way, it's hard to shut down. GoOdy plays a style of mech that doesn't really go towards that late game air composition. You'll see a lot of players like Straylock or Avilo, for example, or Avilo. Sorry, I say that name wrong all the time. Who they'll play mech, but they'll kind of make their end goal to get a lot of Ravens out ASAP. And you will see GoOdy do that, but that's typically not his go-to. He plays a lot more comfortably with the ground mechanical style. Lots of tanks, lots of Hellbats, and just trying to get it very slow forth and creep out slowly and push out slowly and eventually try and smother his opponent in the late game. That's why I fear for someone even like Hyun, the late game is a bit of a danger zone for him. If GoOdy gets to that point where he can get the momentum to just not lose anything, I don't know. We may also see alternatively Swarm Host come out of Hyun if he wants to play this a little bit more cheeky, I guess. I mean, Swarm Hosts themselves aren't cheeky, but the strategies involved kind of are. And you have to play very specifically with Swarm Hosts to make them work. If you just set them and forget them, sometimes they'll get the job done, but often you do have to micro them. Like as soon as they get that Locust Wave out, unburrow, reposition. But SCV scouts everything for now. No incredibly early Roach Warren, but of course, you would never have a Roach Warren this early anyways. I think the big thing, of course, is just seeing whether Hyun was taking it as natural, going for a quick third. Didn't see anything at the third, so coming back home. Yeah, just confirm he didn't see anything at the third. There is just a side note while we get this going. Well, 4 links are going to come up here, but 3 Marines are going to be more than adept to deal with them. HCO Mario is a North American mech player. He's got a very interesting opening. I don't know if he still does it all the time. I remember casting him a couple times in Zotac, watching him do it, but oop.
First blood.
I was gonna say though, one thing HCO Mario does that I find kind of cute is his initial build is a lot different than every other mech player that I've ever seen. He starts with one as supply depot on the low ground at the big fat ramp. Double barracks, another supply depot, gets a bunker behind it. Gets a second bunker if he's worried about banelings, and gets tanks out ASAP after going CC first. You don't really see people do that a lot. That's kind of cool, but as we see, GoOdy is playing a very more standard, very predictable, very more particular style, and actually going to open with Hellion Banshee. Okay, this is kind of neat. This is a style that Hyun has absolutely seen before, but hasn't probably seen in recent days. Some players like QXE are trying to bring this back, and I'm not trying to name drop to sound cool, but I mean, you see really just QXE as the other big main Hellion Banshee guy. There are others, of course, but I mean, this go-to build is kind of interesting. Now, of course, Banshees, for those who don't know, do kind of just 101 a queen, no problem. Without the addition of a spore crawler or a second queen, Banshee wins out, even without cloak. The problem is, this hits at an unexpected timing. Hyun is going to have the lair finished by the time the Banshee's in the base, so if he needs to get an Overseer out, it will be no problem. But of course, if he focuses on the Banshee, then the Hellions just going to run in and kill all the drones. But Hyun's got the wall off started. There we go. A little bit delayed there, but he's got the Evolution Chambers coming up, so he should be able to just position some fat queens in the hole, plug it, and be good to go. But GoOdy is just, I don't know. He should be okay with this opening. It's not leading to anything risky. This is, I mean, even this, though it's Hellion Banshee, it's not, it's only got the potential to do a little bit of damage. Hellions, in the meanwhile, it's kind of dicey. I hate using the term dicey because NASL has absolutely killed that term. Or WCS America has killed that term, I should say, but it really is. Because if you get them in, sometimes you can cause just ridiculous amounts of damage. 15, 20 drones, no problem. But alternatively, sometimes the Hellions get absolutely useless. They get stuck at the queen wall, they get taken out really quickly, and no damage gets done whatsoever. So, big question is going to be, does the Banshee go straight for the mineral line, or does that assist the Hellions in breaking through? And I think in this sort of scenario, breaking through that wall might be the priority. Alright, well, Queen's going to run for now. Hellions are going to absolutely fry it to bits. No transfuse goes off. This third base, normally against just Hellions, would not be that scared, but a Banshee adds a ton of damage. So forced to come out here and defend is Hyun. Roaches are going to get involved in this fight. Of course, as long as he takes out the Queen, the Banshee will prevail. Nice cloak there, so there's no detection nearby. Gonna run away with the Hellions. Maintain everything for the time being, actually, is GoOdy. So, gonna lose very little to these Roaches initially, but of course, Roaches beat out Hellions pretty much straight up. But 3 Queens on 1 Banshee. This Banshee, I don't think can run away in time. No, it does go down. Pop, pop. And, well, could actually retain a lot of the Hellions. There's a lot that are in the red and are almost dead, but for the most part, retains a lot of them. If he repairs them up, he can try and go back for round 2, but even then, Roaches are not fun to deal with. The splash damage from Hellions is not bad. It's not exactly a lot, but if you've got a lot of Roaches that you're splashing at the same time, it actually kind of makes them more effective. But for the time being, GoOdy is just, yeah, gonna come back home. Not a lot he can really do without tanks, without Hellbats. Double armor is coming up, so he's getting this tech up ASAP. Lots of factors coming down. Infrastructure will be out the wazoo. Meanwhile, the Hyun is looking to go for that sort of late game style I was talking about. You go Roach, Hydra. No sign of an infestation pit yet, so I'm not smelling Swarmhouse. And typically, if you're going to pop Swarmhouse out, you get them out early enough to keep your opponent sort of contained, to be able to just kind of set it, forget it early on, and keep them from taking a quick third. Of course, when it gets to the late game, you have to be very active with your Swarmhouse. If you leave them, if you lose them to like one good set of secret missiles or tank volleys or something, it's just going to cost you the game because it's such a huge investment. Despite the fact that it's for you, and it's a lot of people forget, Swarmhosts are incredibly expensive. It's like 200 resources, 100 gas. But continue with the ranged upgrades. There's the Hydralisk den, so definitely going to go with the Roach Hydralisk style. Gonna go for a bit of a bust, actually. Tanks are out on the field for GoOdy, but they're gonna siege up a little bit too late. Perhaps Unsieged may have been a better choice here. Gonna try and bully these Roaches out with the Hellions, but the Hellions, of course, not exactly the most healthy units. Banshee should be able to clean this up, and GoOdy's going to lose some SCVs, but no game-ending damage being applied right now. Actually, if he busts up here and takes out the... Oh, the wall up does go up. Okay, so he's going to buy himself a little more time. But if he gets on top of the production, if he picks off these tech labs, GoOdy's not going to be able to produce tanks. If GoOdy can't produce tanks, then he's not going to shut down another Roach follow-up. So, Hellbats are coming out in spades. Hellbats versus Roaches are actually pretty good, but the problem is they're slow, and so are these Roaches. They don't... Do they have speed? Actually, they do have speed, so never mind. But oh, that beautiful Thor popping at the right time, but shooting the wrong unit as it goes for the Overseer. Hyun is just massacring the SCVs right now. Not a lot. Oh, I take that back. Actually, not a lot going to die before he gets cleaned up here. So that Thor packing quite a punch. 30 hits without upgrades. Twice too. GoOdy holds. Command Servant is lifted, not even burning down. Gonna lose a couple more SCVs. Kind of sucks, but again, he kept the Banshees alive. These are really what kept him in this. Hellbats and Thors, though, have been revealed. So Akilon, of course, knows this is mech at this point. He could have guesstimated after that huge Hellion sort of dedication, I guess you could call it. It wasn't really an all-in or an attack, because GoOdy didn't get much done, but Hyun's got this crazy amount of creep spread. Jeez Louise. 4th base on the way, but Hydralisk's now available. Hydralisk in play. This is going to make it a little more difficult because they've got such crazy damage. The downside to Hydralisk, of course, is their health pool. Very low. 80 health, high damage. Think of it like a glass cannon. You walk those into a wave of siege tanks, they are going to die. That's why you need Vipers for this composition. You can either abduct the tanks to you or blinding cloud them to make sure that you can walk into them. But either way, ooh, nice with those siege tanks. But either way, you can't really just send in Roach Hydra against Hellions and Thors and Hellbats and tanks. It's just, everything here is meant to massacre whatever comes towards the tanks, and the tanks are meant to massacre things from far away. So it's this really nice symbiotic relationship, I suppose. Upgrades doing a little bit behind for GoOdy, but of course when you're playing mech, upgrades are not nearly as important for the mech players they are for the Zerg player. Upgrades are always important, don't misunderstand that, 100% of the time. Postured for now. It's really unfortunate that this is a best of 1 though, because I would love to see a best of 3 between these two guys, but we are, as predicted, going to probably see this go to the late game. Hyun's Hive is on the way, and Aspire's coming up too, so we're going to definitely see that late game Broodlord addition. I don't know if it'll be a full transition, because of course Hyun's not invested too much into it, but you don't really need to make him that effective. And oh, these siege tanks are just barely out of range. But the Hellbats will hold the ramp line. Looks like he gets up, snipes one of the tanks, but for the cost of several Hydralisks as well as a lot of Roaches. So not sure that that was really worth it necessarily for Hyun. Resources lost, looking a little more even after that early attack. But these Hydralisks, there's no blue flame on the Hellions. They're not taking bonus damage, but they're still taking a lot of splash damage. However, we do see the Hellbats just melting to the incredibly high DPS of these glass cannon units. Looks like, though, with the 2 Thors and SV spam repairing, he should be able to clean this up. Hyun actually just donated a lot to make this very ineffective attack do a lot of damage. SCVs in the middle line are going to get cleaned up. Thors are not being repaired right now. Actually, SCVs have got to get over here. These are very expensive units, and GoOdy is going to micro that back to make sure he doesn't lose that Thor. Nice repair going off like crazy. I don't know if you guys ever played. I always harken back to this. Oh, he's actually going to go for Swarm Host. This works versus mech. We'll talk about that more in a second, because GoOdy's tank count's really low, but Hyun, or if you guys remember back at Wings of Liberty, you actually used to have to build Thors like a physical building. Like, you put a grid space, 9 grids, 3x3, whatever, like you would for a factory, and the Thor would get built out of that. Every time I see these massive units, knowing that they come from the factory, it's kind of like, how do they walk out of there? They used to have to get built, like their own building, but they just walk out of the factory, no big deal. But yeah, so Swarmos are basically gonna... This is the catch of the mech, right? Swarm hosts are gonna force a lot of tanks out. You need, I think... Oh, I'm having a stupid moment trying to remember. I think it's 5 and 7 tanks, somewhere in that number, depending on your upgrades, to hold off Locust waves, to hold off the Locust advances. And if you have to invest in a lot of tanks, chances are you do not have a lot of anti-air, which means a Broodlord Corruptor transition can absolutely kick your butt. But for the time being, that's not going to be the case. We have Tunneling Claws on the way. That Spire's just a regular Spire. So he may swap to Mutalisks, actually. Which, it doesn't seem that viable because Thors are so good. But if he can knock down these Thors, I mean, what's left? Vikings? Vikings don't contend against Mutalisks. Hellbats, not a chance. And tanks don't shoot up. There's not a massive Raven counter from GoOdy because, again, he doesn't typically play that crazy air style. I mean, he's getting 3 starports, but this is going to be for Vikings for the time being, to zone out Vipers, to snipe off Overseers, to make sure that Hyun can't creep up on him, so to speak. No pun intended, as creep is literally coming up on GoOdy's base. But Ravens are so good. Point defense drone is fantastic against Hydralisk. It actually allows you to advance through a Locust wave if you throw down 2-point defense drones. Regardless of the Locust, you can push through it. But not going with air tech for the time being. No extra tech labs, just investing in the Vikings. GoOdy going to play it safe. He's definitely expecting Broodlords and Corruptors, but that's not going to be the case. Just Vipers for now. Hyun, I don't think is going to be able to afford to get too many abducts. Getting in close versus this many Vikings is going to be pretty much impossible, to be honest. So, kind of, I hate to use this phrase, but like YOLO Blinding Clouds might be his best bet. You know, just run in, try and get the Blinding Clouds off, and expect the Vipers to die with no recourse, I guess. And this is... Hyun's just got map control, guys. If you ever want to know what map control is like, I'm going to show you Hyun's vision right now. Everything that is not GoOdy's base. Oh, but he does see the Banshee going to come over here. Man, this is so heavily defended. This is so well played out of Hyun, by the way. So, the biggest threat to him at this stage of the game is GoOdy trying to sneak out with Hellions. He's never going to push out with tanks yet. Like when his army moves, he's either going to leapfrog it slowly or he's going to bring it all at once. But because the only real option for him for harass, quote unquote, is to go for like blue flame Hellions trying to run by, he's put so many spine crawlers down at each of his bases to ensure that that will not happen. I don't think blue flame's actually been released or researched. No, GoOdy's actually skipped over it entirely. This kind of makes sense because he's expecting a lot of roaches out of his opponent, but blue flame is so good for killing Hydralisks, is so good for getting on top of the locusts. I don't know. Alright, well, Hydralisk's gonna poke at this, but can be driven off by... Ooh! Nice snipe of that one Viper. Doesn't seem like a lot, but that is actually kind of a big deal. As without these, Hyun cannot advance forward at all. Creep looks like it's going to slowly recede, but this is what GoOdy does. This is what GoOdy does. This is how he comfortably plays. He gets to the late game, and he slowly expands. He will leapfrog his tanks out, and he will slowly expand. He'll slowly eat up those extra bases. And Hyun's going to have to just get as much economy right now as he can. Get as big of a bank as he can. That's why you don't see him throwing units into this yet. He wants to be able to just constantly remax without worrying about bases later on. So for the time being, we see him going out for that Greater Spire. We're going to see some Broodlords come out. We're going to see some Swarm Hosts available. And he's just going to keep poking and trying to get what he can for free. But the reality is, the importance is he needs to get this massive bank built up at this stage of the game. Because there's no way he's pushing into this and breaking the army of GoOdy. He kind of has to let GoOdy expand so that GoOdy keeps spreading his army out thinner and thinner and thinner. So he can start taking a better engagement later on. But GoOdy's finally starting to poke out a little bit here. Hellbat's going to walk around. We do see Ravens finally becoming available to GoOdy. So... again, like I said, he tends to stray away from this until much later. So 22 minutes in, we finally have our Ravens introduced. Couple of ducks here from the Vipers, quite nicely done, but ooh, still picks off that second one with that Viking before it goes down. I love, by the way, love that we see the weapon plating up here. This is why a big part of why he invested in this, not just for his ground army, but because it benefits the Vikings so nicely, as well as those Ravens. They will not go down nearly as quickly to those Hydralisks. If those were naked Vikings, you would have seen every single one that got abducted get killed instead of having two get away. No cancel on that base. Hyun can't get lazy about even the slightest thing at this point, but Hellbats are going to get taken out quite quickly. Meanwhile, this is GoOdy's plea, his plight, to try and push out slowly. Again, slowly is the name of the game. Like, he's not going to try and rush anything out. He's not going to lift an orbital and make it into a planetary in desperate hopes of getting another base. I mean, he's slowly maxing out. He's slowly getting an army up. But the big thing is he's not really losing much in the process. I mean, resources lost is kind of even, but you gotta consider Hyun donated so much early on. So whether that's even, that's up for you as the viewer to decide. But the reality is, GoOdy is just kind of in this very awkward spot where he knows what he's doing, and it's gonna be a slow game from here. And what is fantastic, by the way, if you guys don't know, GoOdy's actually got some of the most ladder games played in StarCraft 2, which is a weird thing to consider because if every game he plays is like an hour and a half long, how on earth does he possibly have that much time for StarCraft 2? But yeah, Locust trying to find splits in these tanks, but of course so nicely positioned are these tanks. There's just no way for him to really get in on this. And again, with the Raven count, the biggest thing, it's not really the Seeker Missiles. You need like 2 or 3 Seeker Missiles to kill a Swarm Host. The splash damage is nice, but of course Swarm Host can actually outrun the Seeker Missile before it hits. But the big thing is those point defense drones. Allowing yourself to take no damage while advancing forward, that's how you get past this army. We see a lot of spine crawlers on the front lines, and a lot of changelings actually coming in. We got the changeling assault, but GoOdy will have none of this. Actually, one of them will get in. Kills him with that. But we also see him, by the way, if you guys did not notice, he is slowly starting to sacrifice his SCVs. He's starting to clear up supplies so he can get that massive army control with probably what will be close to like 11 orbitals later on. He's not going to need SCVs to mine, but only for gas. So up to 10 orbitals right now. That's 10 mules approximately every 30 or 50 seconds. But coming in here now, we do have a big push, and this is what I was talking about. Hyun is going to find when GoOdy spreads his army out, perhaps a little too thin, but with the point defense drones down, nothing can touch these Thors, nothing can touch these tanks, and if GoOdy just backs up a little bit, he'll be okay. He'll kill this army without having to move his own. So those tanks still in a good position. Thor's just going to back up underneath this, as we see, not taking much, if any, damage at all, and the tanks keep the Locusts at bay, so Hyun, perhaps a little perplexed that he didn't cause much of any damage there. I mean, he's killed 42 workers this game, but about half of those were actually donated. Those weren't the ones mining at this base. And GoOdy pulled those back immediately. So fantastically handled so far. this base mining out very quickly due to the massive overmuling going on, and Hyun is just can't be happy with the situation he's in right now. Making 44 infestors! Guys, you are not missing this. That is 44 infestors coming out. Now, a big part of this is going to be the other observers are like, what's going on? This is actually really important. He's going to use a lot of infested Terrans to try. I'm guessing, by the way, he's either going to. I see option A, thousands of infested Terrans, because infested Terrans, of course, are not affected by the secret missiles. He'll use the locust wave to allow himself to get close enough with the infestors to throw down 100 infested Terrans on top of the tanks. Splash damage will be had. Secret missile, or sorry, point defense drones will do nothing, and he'll be in a bit of trouble if he can connect. The problem is, I don't know if he can connect. The option B, he doesn't have it researched, but a neural parasite with 44 infestors, you could literally take over half of your opponent's army. But okay, things are gonna get crazy, and in not too many high amounts. Yeah, so we see infested Terrans coming down here initially. Oh no, GoOdy has left a huge hole in his wall. That tank can kill this if it gets there in time, but if Hyun gets all 40 of these infestors into this base, if he throws out those infested Terrans, if this Nidus Worm goes, oh no, it's not gonna go down. Oh, so close. If that Nidus Worm had constructed and he had put infested Terrans on top of the production line, if GoOdy loses his factories, this army doesn't matter. Hyun can then slowly whittle it away and win the game. You gotta remind you guys, look at this. GoOdy does not have much of production at all. This is all orbitals. This is all supply depots. He's got like 5 factories, 3 starports. If these go down, there's no way, even with a 5k, 3k bank, there's no way he remaxes his army if Hyun takes even half of it, even a quarter of it away. So Hyun going for some really cool special tactics. Gotta say, much respect to Hyun for doing something abnormal. I love seeing crazy stuff like that, even though it is currently not working. But does he have 2 He's got 3. Does he have 3 Niduses at home, or can you actually construct more than one at once? I'm not a Zerg player. I do not know, but no, he does in fact have 3 straight up Niduses available. What? Okay. The scary thing for GoOdy is he's actually going to hear 3 Niduses go off at once, and we see him scanning immediately. He has no idea where these have come down. So Hyun, perhaps with some mind game tactics, I'm not even kidding, guys, legitimate mind game tactics, trying to scare GoOdy. Because GoOdy's like, wait, there's nothing in my base. I'm good. Where did those Niduses come down? So he scans, and he only sees 1. But okay, hundreds of infested Terrans, as predicted, coming down. These guys do a lot of damage. They might not do as much damage as they once did, but they still do a ton of damage. And as we see, they're going to push into this base, get away from this tank fire, perhaps. But on both sides, Hyun is just throwing out infested Terrans everywhere. Where are the locusts? Hyun is not actually using the locust waves to sort of encompass this, but I don't even know what's going on in this game. Are we going to see Neural Parasite? Can we get some Neural Parasite? 44 infestors. What the hell is going on right now? I would absolutely love to see some Neural Parasites come out, but it's going to be very difficult to utilize. Like getting on top of the tank is going to be very near impossible, but I was really expecting the locust waves to buffer for that push. Now, it's not like he's out of energy. I mean, a lot of these infestors are out of energy, but with 44 infestors, you've got a lot of energy no matter what you do. But okay, Locust Wave's going to attack to the north. Infested Terran's going to try and get on top of this. This is what I was talking about. So, like, if he's busy shooting the locusts that are about here, he can actually then advance his infestors to about here, allowing him to get range to shoot on top of the tanks, and the other tanks will splash damage GoOdy's own tanks. It's a weird dynamic, but it's a possibility to make it work. The good thing for GoOdy, again, with these accidental punts, is he's got those armor upgrades. A lot of times when Terrans go mech, they go straight up weapons, and they don't invest in the armor upgrades until much later. But because GoOdy already invested in +3 armor, with 4 armor, infested Terrans doing like, what, 7 damage I think it is? I'll check in a sec. They really don't hurt that much. GoOdy is just scanning like crazy though, and of course when you've got, how many orbitals is he up to now? 12 orbitals in play, you can of course get away with this. But again, with this slow creeping of the map, it doesn't matter that there's creep all over this base, because GoOdy is going to slowly but surely secure it. But this is when Hyun starts getting a better opportunity, when he starts finding the chance to start have the potential to make something happen. As GoOdy stretches out his forces to the north, either the northern base becomes vulnerable or the southern base becomes vulnerable, because he has to stretch his forces so thin. But there we go, I didn't catch it. Neural Parasite finally coming out. So, catching a siege tank is going to be an improbability. He can certainly do it. It's a possibility, but again, an improbability. If he can blinding cloud the tanks, make enough room for those infestors to get there and just catch them, maybe he'll get some good damage in. The other alternative is, of course, trying to sneak up and get these Thors, but there's turrets, there's detection, there's ravens. There's just no easy way for Hyun to get into this. And there we go, GoOdy's expanding. This is the progress of the game right now, but oh, Hyun with the block! No! What? GoOdy is a cheater! Somehow lands the orbital on top of creep. I don't even. Hyun's got to be pretty choked about that, seeing that happen, but again, the infestor count has not exactly dwindled. We're still at 38, and he's still just continuing to create free units to throw away at other units. And this is always good for the Terran player. If you can just hold the line, if you never lose anything to those free units, so much more power to you. But, oh man, this command center is getting creeped the hell up. Ugh. Planetary Fortress not going to be able to shrug off this creep anytime soon. But, alright, looks like we got a bit of an advance coming out of Hyun. But, of course, with the massive scans, that burrow is not really stealth protection. We can knock down these turrets maybe, but even then there's ravens right on top of this. So, still unable to find any edgeway in here is Hyun, and he's just in this terrible spot where if this was another map, maybe it'd be a little bit different, but Akilon Waste, it allows for these massive chokes in the central part of the maps. It allows to be covered from all angles. And the Overlord is going to go down slowly but surely to that turret. 3 air upgrades, of course, available. Corruptors now coming out. Are we going to see... Oh my god. Are we going to see the rain? The march of free units? Are we going to see locusts, infested Terrans, as well as broodlings? I would absolutely go nuts if that's going to happen. Because, of course, if... Oh my god, he can neural parasite while everything's busy, distracted with so many free... Oh my god, this could get really cool, guys. But that's a possibility. That's one possibility. That may not even be what Hyun's thinking of. These corruptors could simply be to deal with the Ravens, to deal with the Vikings, what have you. But I gotta say, I'm thinking the broodlings wouldn't be a bad investment at this stage of the game. Point defense drones don't exactly eke them out. The tanks, of course, splash damage each other, so he'll slowly chip away at the tank lines. Free hype! If that's gonna happen, we're gonna free hype the hell out of this, but for the time being, GoOdy is... Yeah, just holding off the advances of Hyun. His bases are mined out in the main, the natural, and the third, but that's okay because he slowly took his 4th, he slowly took his 5th, and he's dropping so many mules at a time. What is his income right now? About 3k minerals. Oh my god, that is insane. But here come the Broodlords. So we are going to have free hype! Free hype! Hyun is going to be hitting GoOdy with everything. He's going to have to make sure he syncs up these waves correctly, though, because if he even sends in one wrong section of this, this could go to hell in a handbasket, or whatever the phrase is. And of course, the Ravens have to be incredibly careful. They can run up, they can throw the point defense drones down, and they can try and secret missiles the Broodlords. But if he gets a little too overzealous, if he stays stacked up, a fungal growth will destroy everything. And again, GoOdy's production, he's got a massive bank, but he doesn't have a lot of production. And Hyun actually did a lot of spine crawler cancel tricks, if you guys didn't catch that early in the production tab, to get these extra Broodlords out. That's why he's at 211 supply out of 200. But the first line of infested Terrans is going to come down. He's going to slowly walk these forward with the Locust Waves. Here come the Broodlords. Let's see what's going to happen. This is going to get cool. Of course, here come the first couple Seeker missiles. Going to try and back out of this. I don't know if Broodlords are fast enough. Looks like they aren't. Oh, barely are, actually. I take that back. Queen's going to transfuse the damage. Oh, so close to an engagement, guys. So close to an engagement. I don't even know what to say at this point. It's just a matter of Hyun. He's gonna have to throw away a lot. But look at Hyun's bank. He can throw away a lot. He's got how many larvae available? 114, and instant remax is not out of the question. But here we go. The free hype has begun. We see the infested Terrans, the Broodlords, the Locusts are coming in. The army of GoOdy is going to try and do what it can to hold this back. Big synchro missile hits go off. Half of the Broodlords die immediately, but the tanks are slowly being beaten back. TLK is slowing down the game, whatever. Big fungal growth on top of the Vikings. If he can get 3 more of these off, these will all die. And if he loses the Vikings, remaxing of Broodlords is going to be more of an option than ever before. But we see the infested Terrans coming down on top of the tanks. GoOdy has lost everything to this massive free push. Resources lost, a huge dip, but one more fungal growth needs to go off. The Vikings actually survive as Hyun is out of energy. He does not have enough to get one more fungal. No! GoOdy will retain his Vikings, but what we see actually is a crazy remax on Ultralisks. Perhaps Hyun reading into the fact that GoOdy probably doesn't have production, knowing that that's how good he plays. You know, he gets a big army, maxes it out, and holds on without going for a crazy reproduce. So 12 Ultralisks with not a lot of tank support should tear through this. How much of this army is invested in air? 13 Ravens, 17 Vikings. There's actually not a lot on the ground. So Lings behind this could be, he's making Lings behind this dude. This could be fantastic if he can slam at the right place at the right time. I really think though the focus of Hyun is a little too much on the army of GoOdy at hand, and well, I guess focusing the base doesn't really matter. I take that back, because the economy doesn't need to be hit. Who cares about the economy? There's such a big bang for both of these players, but these Lings do not have metabolic boost? What? Okay, Ultralisk's gonna come in here to the front lines. Tanks are gonna do what they can. The Queens are here to transfuse, but here comes some Seeker missiles. There's gonna be so much splash damage here in just a second, ladies and gentlemen. Kaboosh! And the Ultralisks are just barely not getting transfused enough. One Ultralisk trying to do what it can, but this is not going to be a Ghost Suit user moment. Not at all. The Vikings have landed. These Vikings that, oh my god, if one Fungal had gone off earlier, such a large portion of this army would no longer exist. But even though Hyun threw the Ultralisks away, he got the job done. He killed more tanks. He stripped the army of GoOdy away slowly, little bit at a time. And I can't even get over the way this game's going. I think a lot of players would give up in this situation. But Hyun is sticking in this. He's making 25 more Locusts behind this. Or Swarm Hosts, I should say, not Locusts. Sorry. Well, he'll certainly be making 25 Locusts for sure. But Seeker Missile's going to go off and do a lot of splash damage. Oh, kablooey! Finally gonna get some swings in of his own instead of taking the hits. Finally able to turn them around and dish them out. But is that even going to matter? Like I said, 25 Swarm Hosts are coming up behind this, picking off 6. Hyun probably doesn't care. He's like, congratulations, you finally killed something of mine that wasn't free. But oh, he's gotta be careful. These infestors need to burrow, or they'll be pushed forward by the Locusts. These are the biggest scumbag units in the game. Locusts have killed more Zerg units than Zerg units typically kill Zerg units. I mean, or Terran units kill Zerg units, because they often force a lot of units to walk forward. But big infested Terran swarm coming down once again. I don't know that this will be enough to cause a lot of damage. It's gonna pick off a tank or two for sure due to splash, but that's about it. I kind of think like hit and run with Fungals might be better. I can't say though. This is too insane. I can barely keep up with what's going on, and I'm watching from a bird's eye view. But GoOdy's air army has been left untouched at this point. One really important point worth noting, guys, GoOdy has not wasted his time making battle cruisers. Usually at this stage of the game, you'll see someone go for battle cruisers out of desperation, thinking maybe that'd be a good go-to, but is absolutely the worst case. That's the worst choice you could do at this stage of the game. So sticking with this heavy ground army, lots of Vikings, some Ravens. If there's any one thing I'd love to see GoOdy try and transition into, is get a couple ghosts available. Nukes would be cool, but absolutely useless versus a Zerg player. But getting EMPs out, knowing that these infestors are constantly throwing infested Terrans at him, 3 EMPs to shut that down immediately, you'll blanket half of the infestors. That might allow GoOdy to then counter push, but for the time being, he's going to keep bunkering up. He's going to play safe. He doesn't actually have any barracks at all, I believe, so he can't actually even produce ghosts, even if you were to make that transition. One barrack, sorry, over here, but yeah, Loki's going to try and get up on the high ground. Point defense ground so nicely here, but it looks like they've actually run out of energy, so the tanks are starting to take some damage. But GoOdy has only 14 workers unavailable. But guess what? His income is going to be perfectly fine. He's still dropping like 13 mules at a time. This is ridiculous. Khan is now going to try and take this northern base, but of course going to be poked at by a Banshee. GoOdy, I forgot, had Banshees available to him, but his Thor also going to get picked off for free. This is a stalemate, to say the least, I suppose you could call it. Big Locust Wave coming in again here. But of course, so many tanks are just going to keep these at bay. They're going to... This is what's beautiful. The sheer amount of brute force that Hyun's applying, it's only killing like 1 or 2 things per wave, but that's all he needs to do, just constantly keep whittling away. But the scary thing for Hyun, folks, look at his gas bank. This was something that was almost like 5 digits before, now down to 3. He cannot remax on Ultralists. He cannot remake the Infestors. He cannot remake the Swarm Hosts. That's why he's desperately trying to secure this base. He needs those gas geysers. But Hyun is going to find himself matched with the army of GoOdy moving up here. And I'm getting so sick of hearing the scans, guys. Every like 3 seconds we have a scan going off because GoOdy just wants to keep advancing. But as he takes the army away from the natural, it allows the Locusts to start pushing in. A tank goes down, another tank goes down. And oh my god, this is gonna be explosive! Lots of the Locusts, or Swarm Hosts, I keep calling them Locusts now, I'm sorry. Lots of the Locusts actually will, however, pick off this orbital, forced to lift off immediately. GoOdy is not slacking for a second. And let's not forget, guys, coming up on the 50-minute mark, this is GoOdy's comfort zone. This is where he normally plays StarCraft 2. Hyun has probably not found himself in this particular scenario too many times. Usually with 44 infestors, you would expect mech to go down or something, but again with the point defense drones, no damage being taken from these locusts whatsoever. And Hyun still can't make Vipers. The Viking count is too high. He can't invest in Ultralisks. The tank count is far too high. And the Thors, of course, have been left untouched. With 3 weapon upgrades, they punch for 39 times 2 per shot. I don't even... Burrowed infestors stuck against burrowed swarm hosts. This game, ladies and gentlemen, this game. Geysers are still mining. Okay, those are completely wasted out. Lots of idle workers. We're going to swap to the units tab for now because I don't think we're going to see much production for a while. As both players are maxed out. There's nothing for them to research, nothing for them to build. The tech tree is just completely across the screen for Hyun. But the scary thing for GoOdy is he actually has to make sure he doesn't... Oh, okay, he's going to come here. No spore crawlers. As you see, he has to be careful with those Thors. The more he sends those Thors out, the more likely Hyun decides to neural one and either friendly fire kill it or churn it around to try and kill something else. But a fungal growth goes off to try and catch this one poor Raven. Rest in peace, Infestor. Bro Fester. I want to point out how much of this game is attributed, by the way, this one turret that I've selected. This is the one thing that's kept GoOdy in the game more than anything else. Because Hyun has tried several times to attack into this turret, to burrow through, to sneak by, to try and find GoOdy off guard. But while there was never a Raven that guarded this southern base location, this missile turret has been here for almost 25 minutes. This missile turret has kept, like, this is the unsung hero of the game. I would like to take a moment with you guys to, like, just, like, a moment of silence. This guy, whether win or lose, the small man rotating within that missile turret has kept GoOdy alive for so much longer than I think Hyun would have loved for him to do. But because the focus on the south has been a little bit too great, we now see him shifting northward. I need some water. I'm sorry, one second. Alright, well, again with these massive locust waves, how many locusts are being made per time? It is close to 80 locusts, 74 at a time out of these swarm hosts. They are finally starting to get on top of the tanks, but I almost wish Hyun would rather than... Okay, I see one small thing Hyun could do differently. Well, first he's going to lose his base down here. That sucks, the 3 Thors. But the Locusts, instead of using them to attack, just move command them on top of the tanks. Have the friendly fire do the damage that the Locusts cannot. The point defense drones completely negate the damage of the Locusts, but they don't negate the damage of the splash from the tanks, the friendly fire. If you would walk them right into melee range, just move command them. We see there's enough of them to be able to do that. Then maybe the friendly fire from the tanks will start causing some damage. But now, perhaps a little bit strained is Hyun. Chasing back the Thors, did lose the space, really unfortunate, but needs to rebuild it, absolutely needs to, even for the 76 gas, even for the 320 gas, he doesn't have a lot of gas available. Every gas is so important to Hyun at this late stage of the game, because a remax on Lings is out of the question. Again, no metabolic boost, no melee upgrades, no armor upgrades. Hyun is forced to play with these very gas-intensive units. He is making some Zerglings now, but again, these are going to be the most useless units to him. But I want to point out, there's actually an availability now to come into the south. The army's been so heavily shifted, and I think Hyun is starting to smell that. He's repositioning some swarm hosts more forward. If he could sneak into this base, again, if he gets on top of the production of GoOdy, this is GoOdy's Achilles heel, folks. Everything else about him looks unstoppable. Everything else about GoOdy looks like it cannot be broken, but this is his Achilles heel, his lack of production, his lack of the capability to remax despite his massive bank. But Hyun, moving spine crawlers forward, trying to hold on to this base, will lose another hatchery. This is where all of his drones are mining. This is where all of his gas, his hopes and dreams were. And looks like, oh, he did actually get metabolic boost. What am I talking about? I'm sorry, last time we saw the Lings, there was none. But sneaking only a small handful of Lings into the main, unupgraded, well, mostly unupgraded, actually. Yeah, I'm sorry, I've been so focused on everything else, I didn't even know, but big knurls go off. Sadly, oh, gotta get one more. Starts turning this around, has to be careful of that range, but will friendly fire the Thors down, starting to kill his own units with, well, Hyun killing GoOdy's units with his own units. A little bit of a face slap to him. However, those Zerglings were cleaned up in the main by the Banshees. These 3 Banshees, again, have been alive for a long time in this game. They haven't killed much, but they've been harassing Naturals, third bases, providing air support. But I just can't help but laugh. I'm sorry, guys. Not at either of these players, but at this crazy situation we're in. We're coming up on 1 hour. This wasn't unexpected. Going into a GoOdy game, I sat down and I said, yes, I'm prepared to cast a very long game of StarCraft 2. But against a player like Hyun, I did not expect it to go this way. 44 infestors made at one point. Over 50 Swarmos have been lost this game. Actually, is that accurate? I don't know. I'm guessing. 17. Okay, so not a lot of Swarmos actually lost, but lots of other. Actually, let's talk about this for a moment. Since there's not a lot else to talk about. Look how much has been thrown away from both players. We've seen Hyun make every unit in the game except for a Mutalisk. There might not be Corruptors lost on here, but that's because they turned into Broodlords. But he has literally made every single Zerg unit at some point in this game, except for a Mutalisk, trying to throw them away at GoOdy. Trying to find a way to break GoOdy. This is insane. GoOdy is, of course, starting to slowly mine out of his last base, so his income is going to slow down, but his bank is still pretty nice. These Banshees finally coming into full effect with that cloak. Again, these are also like the Missile Dread. They've been down for so long, and God, GoOdy might not have Overlord or Creep Spread, but he's got like infinite scans from like 13 orbitals. It's ridiculous. But okay, this is kind of an interesting swap coming out of Hyun. Recognizing that he has a lot of minerals in his bank and not a lot of gas, gonna try and find a way to effectively spend that. And he's gonna be doing that by making a lot of queens. Zerglings, of course, are a little bit. He sees that he can sneak some by, but they get shut down so quickly. But if he gets queens out, he can start transfusing like crazy. Looks like 2 of those will still go down. But the dud effect of the Secret Missiles is so disheartening to watch. The Infestor count has dwindled so heavily at this point too. From 44, that mighty original number, that race has dwindled down to the mere 9. Hyun is long distance mining. Can he get some good neurals? He will get some good neurals off. Oh, and with 5 Thors, he could actually assault these tanks. But GoOdy is actually going to focus down the... try to focus this down. No, don't kill the Thors, kill the tanks with the Thors! And get the Thors killed in the process! Neural, of course, does not last that long, as we can see, but still irritating nonetheless. But still, Hyun is killing these very expensive units. One way or another, he's starting to get damage done. Oh, but so many Secret Missiles go off, and a lot of these Swarmos are going to die. Hyun needs to get those queens on the front line ASAP. Neither player is currently maxed, because neither player currently can really max. I just can't. Oh no, he's got some idle locusts. I mean, any small amount of damage at this point is good. If Hyun sends those in, perhaps he can start whittling away. But again, sorry guys, we don't have a lot of production. I'll try and sit on the units tab. Oh, I can't. Those queens, 23 queens. If he gets these front and center. Alright, so queens are psionic units. They don't take bonus damage from tanks. Where are the freaking queens? They're not even rallied. Well, I guess you can't really rally queens, but Hyun's just kind of got all of his queens chilling at each of these hatcheries. You know, standard saturation type things. But I was going to say, he needs these on the front lines. He needs to constantly be transfusing his units. He needs to make sure he doesn't lose another damn thing to a single attack of GoOdy. But Hyun is actually looking pretty scared at this point. His gas bank has been exhausted. He's only got 3 infestors remaining, 2 infestors remaining. Can no longer throw out all of those free neural parasites that he's been trying to do all game. And he's actually long distance mining with 24 drones. Like 1 on the mineral patch, so 23. But I don't even. Thor's gonna go down here a little bit. Actually, quite robust with 3 armor on them, but finally some damage is going to be done. Never mind, Seeker or point defense drones. Hyun has, I believe, selected all of his units finally, but still the queens left idle at each of these bases. Is he? Oh my god. Okay, he is going to try and ghost user this, guys. He is going to. He is going to invest in 1 Ultralisk. That's all he can afford, literally and entirely. He's going to use 23 queens, well actually probably more than 23 now, 27 plus queens, 30 queens, to just spam transfuse the heck out of it while it charges the front lines. If the Ultralisk goes down, then Hyun might just be completely out of hope, out of luck, out of mind. But if that 1 Ultralisk lives, it's got the potential damage to kill everything. If the Vikings land, however, they don't have the burst like siege things do to kill an Ultras, but they got consistent damage. Something that maybe the queens won't be able to keep up with. I don't know. I don't know. At this point, I just don't know what to tell you guys. I've never seen a game in this particular situation. I've seen late game mech versus Zerg, but not like this. This is... At what price, please, is this going to cost Hyun? Okay, so he made more than 1. I'm sorry, my bad. I was talking a big game out of 1 Ultralisk. 5 have actually been slowly invested upon from this long distance mining. And Hyun, I love that he's not rushing this. I think he knows that GoOdy's in about of a desperate situation as he is. Maybe not as desperate as GoOdy still has a massive bank. But he's not throwing away a lot of units here. He's not trying to press the issue. And these, the infestors wanted to go for some fungals. Have to run away from these. Secret missiles again. Actually, not killing anything this time. So Hyun could transfuse these, will transfuse these. If he can get a fungal growth off, though. Like, this is the thing. Siege fire extends to about here, right? Like just shy of the swarm host. If the infestors go too far forward, they get killed, and he can't afford to remake infestors. But if he gets some fungal growths off, he can maybe finally cripple the ravens. And without ravens, without point defense drones, the locusts suddenly become 1,000,000 times more effective. No, maybe not 1,000,000, but still incredibly more effective than they currently are. But we are officially in 5 digits. 1 hour hype, 5 digits, guys. We've done it. We're in Akilon Waste 1 hour at this point, and this game is still raging onward. A bit of a cold war, I guess. The front between Germany and Poland, the demilitarized zone, whatever you want to call this. This is just an area in which there's not a lot going on for the amount of action that is consistently and constantly happening. Now, trying to outrun the secret missiles will dud all 4 of them, so no more with this damage from Hyun, but oh, he's actually starting to clean up Banshees here in the south. These did kill all the locusts, or the swarm hosts. We kind of caught a glimpse of that earlier while I was jumping around with the camera, but picks off the Banshees. However, GoOdy, of course, can't afford to remake units. However, right now, he's only got 3 primary units on the field. A Raven, a Siege Tank, and a Viking. This is like the Wizard of Oz, but for Terran. As he skips down the Yellow Creek Road. Tanks are finally starting to clear this up. And GoOdy, I said he would slowly expand earlier this game, guys. And if you didn't believe me, you better believe me now. Because at 1 hour in, he's going to take his 6th base. He will establish another base. This is something Hyun's not been able to do. And despite the insane amount of map control that Hyun has had for the entirety of this game. Oh, God. The queens are actually stuck within the Nidus worms, trying to filter through. Hyun's got to be careful. If he goes too soon, he won't have his queens with him to transfuse. I can't. We're going to actually watch the APM for this, because Hyun's going to need to crazy transfuse these ultras to keep them alive. Oh, God, but losing some initially. He's going to actually spam transfuse this, but look at the secret missiles coming down. These queens are about to explode. The ultras have to be careful not to outrange the queens. They are in fact outranging the queens that can transfuse, but this one ultralist will not die. It finally goes down almost 700 APM if you guys were watching. And Hyun's last bet, his last hope in the game is extinguished, and maybe, just maybe, good game will be called. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is worse for like a lot of different reasons. One is the fact that every single person earlier today was expecting Hyun to fight San in the finals. Acro took out San. GoOdy took out Hyun. We're not gonna have a finals that we expected at all. I don't even. Guys, I don't even. And oh, wow, a lot of you guys tuned in while that game was going on. Holy shit. We were at like, I think not even 300 people before. Welcome to the channel. That game was fantastic. As we see here reflected at the bottom, a lot of people were expecting GoOdy to win, obviously, but that's not how it went down. And oh shit, oh my bad, I totally forgot. We were fiddling around with overlay stuff before the stream, and I did not restart it with a delay. So I'm really sorry. No harm intended there to the admins of ESL. I've just been informed. So I'm going to run some commercials while we restart the stream, guys. We will be back shortly with a small delay to finish the rest of Go for StarCraft Monday Cup. So we are 100% coming back. Please don't go anywhere. We will be back shortly. Why is the stream not going off? Hang on. Why? There we go.